Hi, Ben Seeger with Halo Hybrid Solutions. We are a Tesla certified installer and have been supporting Tesla PowerShare customers in the northern Utah market. We found that those customers have reported often getting a wide range of price points with the quotes they're getting from other Tesla certified installers because there's a lot of different ways you can approach these systems. As part of that, we found that the same questions were coming up over and over again. So I thought, all right, let's make a basic introductory video of how does the Tesla PowerShare program work, as well as what considerations should you potentially take a look at. Because there are quite literally hundreds of pages in these installation manuals with dozens of different ways you can put this together. And they're just foundationally, it comes down to a couple of core concepts. One, are you going to do just the Cybertruck and that's going to be the only source of power? You could have solar, that's okay, but you don't plan on having any other battery energy storage in the house. Or are you potentially looking to have a Tesla Powerwall or other similar battery system installed at your property? And the reason I bring this up is because what we are really looking for is the controller, the brain. So what happens is for these systems to work, Tesla needs you to have a Tesla Asset Controller, or what they deem as their TACO. And with that, right now, it only exists in two locations. One is in the Powerwall 3, or in the Gateway 3V specifically. The 3 is different, the V has the controller. And so foundationally, we need to decide at the time we're getting the quote put together is, do you intend on going to get a Powerwall 3 at some time now or in the future? And make no mistake, this is not intended to be a sales pitch for the Powerwall 3. Just we need to decide, is that on the horizon or is that something we want to tackle now? Because it will change how we install things. So let's review a few things, the key components. So I'd like to start off with the wall connector, what most people call the charger. The charger is actually in the vehicle itself. So every electric vehicle and truck has an onboard charger because the batteries are DC voltage. So what you're really just connecting is basically an extension cord. It's a really heavy duty extension cord to connect to the vehicle. But charger is perfectly appropriate. Most people call it that. So when we're dealing with the Tesla PowerShare program, we need the latest universal wall connector. And what that comes with is a control port on the back. This is a RS-45 circuit. And this provides control power and communications between the wall connector and the gateway. Without this, you can't communicate to the vehicle. So even if you have an existing wall connector, we do need to upgrade it for this control circuit. As part of that, it is universal. And by universal, it means it has the North America charging standard, or the Tesla style connector, and it also has the J1772. Last year, all of the automotive manufacturers in the United States decided to go with the Tesla style connector moving forward, or the NACS connection. That is the new North American standard. However, we've had more than a decade where we've had the J1772 and the CCS adapters out there as well. So this charger has both. You have push a little button on it, it comes in and out. So if you're a Tesla owner, great, no problem. If you're a non-Tesla owner or you want to allow your friends that have, say, Fords or Volvos, they can plug in just fine with their existing legacy J1772. As part of that, this wall connector is universal with us being able to derate it. So let's say you're in an older property. It's a 100 amp service for a 1950s house. Well, we can pull 48 amps continuous, meaning the entire half of all of your electrical service could go to just charging your vehicle. Well, what happens in the summer when your AC is on and maybe you have an electric dryer going and you've got the range and the, right? It all adds up, right? So an option is to do a service upgrade, but also the other option is we can just configure the wall connector to charge at a slower rate. So instead of putting in a 60 amp breaker, we might put in a 20 amp breaker as an example. Same thing for commercial installations is when we put this in a commercial install, we can have one be the master and the others be the followers. And now we could put, say, 2 or 3 or 4 chargers all on the same electrical circuit. And as more EVs plug in, they'll just distribute the load and all charge a little bit slower, right? Especially if you're providing this as a convenience. Allow them to charge, but you don't necessarily have to have them all charge at that faster rate. You also, if you are as part of the Tesla app, you get to have this, it shows up in your app, and you can now have control, you can schedule things with it. This is very helpful if you don't have a Tesla vehicle or you have a friend that's coming over and you don't want them to charge during the expensive times of the day. That's all integrated into the app. So Tesla wall connector, universal, why we need the newer versions. Let's go ahead and go to the Cybertruck for a second. So this is our Cybertruck that we have. And I'm going to get a couple of those core basic concepts. So with the Cybertruck, we have a power side. This is the inverter. Because remember, the batteries are all DC voltage, right? So we need to connect to AC voltage so we can bring that energy into the house. So with that, I want you to think of that inverter as the engine. It's a good engine. We can supply 11.5 kW or 11,500 watts of power. And it has the ability to take the locked rotor amps or LRA. This is the instantaneous load that an air conditioning unit puts in. I'll talk more about that here in a minute. Energy-wise, this has a 123 kilowatt hour battery. That means it could support 1,000 watts for 123 hours continuously. So the best way I can maybe visually think of this is think about the engine as like a diesel locomotive train. And then think of the gas can as like the cars behind like oil tanker cars, right? One locomotive and a total of 9 cars behind it. It's just a visual. No, it doesn't work that way, but just mentally think engine and then 9 tanks of gas or fuel behind it. By comparison, let's look at the Tesla Powerwall 3. Powerwall 3 is very similar capability, has 11.5 kW of capacity, but you look at that locked rotor amps, the LRA, it's 185. So I kind of tossed a little turbo next to the engine there, where it does have the ability to take a little more oomph. But energy-wise, it's just 13.5 kWh. So I mean, you can handle 1,000 watts for 13 and a half hours, or 13,500 watts for 1 hour. So this, think of this as that diesel locomotive train. You got one engine and then one oil tanker behind it. If we take these and we have both the Powerwall 3 and the Cybertruck, now it's kind of like taking that train and I have 2 locomotives, engine, then I have 10 fuel cars behind it. So what happens is the Powerwall 3, not only does it provide the controls, it's an anchor resource because it's always there. So if you have a utility interruption and your Cybertruck is not plugged in or you're out running errands, well, your whole house or building is going to go offline, right? If you have a Powerwall 3, it's going to assume the load, and then when you return with your Cybertruck and plug it in, now you've got all of that additional energy to go with it. In addition to that, rather than having just one 11.5 kW, you now double that. Now you can support 23,000 watts of power into that home, and the locked rotor amps are also significantly high. So now we're talking about not just one air conditioning unit, but maybe several air conditioning units. You're basically, with those 2 devices on, most houses, you're going to be able to support just about all you need to do to have that house not just stay online for the better part of a day, but then also be able to have that ability to have all the creature comforts at the same time. Right? So Powerwall 3. Let's go back up here. Next component, the PowerShare gateway. So what this is in technical terms, it's an automatic transfer switch, just like you would use with a generator, with an output distribution panel and an energy management controller in it, or the TACO in Tesla speak. So with the PowerShare Gateway 3V, it allows us to take in a 200 amp service, and then with that, we can come right back out as 200 amps, or I can also add up to 8 positions or 8 breaker spaces here. With this, what we do, this consolidated one here, is we might intercept the feeders that are going into that panel. We put the PowerShare gateway adjacent to it, so now we have to often have a raceway, or this is called gutter, where we put these in, and then we have those connections come through. Now we have an automatic transfer switch, and this entire panel is backed up. When I look at, here's another outside installation, some cities require to have a disconnect after the meter, and so you then have that come off the meter, go to the disconnect, you have the PowerShare gateway, and then you have your output panel. This is the Gateway 2, the older generation for reference. Next topic, the backup switch. So the backup switch goes behind the meter. It's a little device that just slips on. We have to schedule with Rocky Mountain Power. They come out, pull the meter, put this in, connect it. What this allows you to do is you can island the entire house. An island means when you have the utility go offline, you need to isolate your home, because if you're trying to power your home and you're still connected to utility, what's going to happen? You're going to provide power to the whole neighborhood, and that's a lot of load. So you have to disconnect yourself. So whether you're using the gateway or the backup switch, that allows you to have your house or property removed from the utility. This does not have a controller. It's just the physical switch device itself. So this needs something to tell it what to do. Either the backup, the PowerShare gateway, or the Powerwall 3. Let's go look at this here. The Tesla asset controller, think of this as the brain, right? So I've got the gateway over here. I've got the Powerwall 3 here. And at the moment, these are the only two devices that have this. So we have to make a choice, which one do you want to have? And I can't do both of them. So what happens is, let's say I put the Gateway 3 in now. It's like, okay, I put that in place. But if I go to put the Powerwall in as well, I've kind of wasted some money here, because I needed to have this controller over here for the function. So if you're leaning towards going to a Powerwall, now's the time to put it in, instead of spending several $1,000s to have us put in the gateway. So conversely, if you really genuinely don't need the Powerwall, you're fine with just the PowerShare capability, we can even support your existing solar. All of that's enabled through the Gateway 3V. Okay, so let's see here. So if we get through that, the summary is you have a choice. When you're going into this, you need to decide, am I going to be my Cybertruck only, or do I want to potentially do other things? So part of what we can provide is we can install that Powerwall 3. We can install that additional solar capacity, because the Powerwall has onboard inverters. But I want to make very clear, it is not intended to be an upsell. We are happy to just do the PowerShare gateway and have it be the Cybertruck. What we want to make sure is that you're having an informed decision before you spend that money, install it, and go, wait a second, well, garbage. I really wanted to do this other thing with the Powerwall. So options. Quick installation examples. Gateway here, back and forth. Another one here with the wall connector off to the side. Here's an example with the Powerwall. No, with this is the Gateway 2, not the Gateway 3, just to be clear. All right, for the more nerdy side of us, I'm going to slow down here. Here's our single line drawing, so you can pause, take a look. There are quite a few different ways we can do this. Tesla is also always iterating and adding new things, right? So there are new capabilities every month. But right now, these are some of the more common topologies we have. With the LRA, promise I'll get back over to that. So what happens is the mechanical loads, usually your air condenser, when it first comes on, it has an inrush. And that locked rotor amperage is really hard. It's kind of like think about if you were driving a small, like a 4-cylinder car, right? So you have like that Toyota Corolla, it's a manual transmission. What's going to happen if you drop the clutch? It's going to stall, right? Same thing as you look at, say, a big diesel engine, like a big tractor trailer. They've got a low gear, and you drop the clutch. What's it going to do? It's going to roll, and it's going to keep driving, right? So that LRA, inverters have the same capability. So if I go back up to the top here, kind of review our LRA, with that 110, 140, 185. So with this, we do need to decide what's in the house and what can potentially have that locked rotor. And the greatest offenders are almost always the air conditioning units. So here's the one from our house, 134 amps. So with this, I would not be able to have it on my Cybertruck by itself consistently. But if I had a Powerwall 3, it could handle that no problem. Also, yes, we have tested it. The Cybertruck squawked and complained, but it's fine. The trick is it's not consistent. It's not that you're going to have that full 134 every single time. But what will happen is when it does hit, it's going to shut everything off. And so what we do advise is if you are going to put the whole home on, we may want to put a smart breaker below the air conditioning unit to tell it not to run, as an example. Some of you may also be fortunate to have heat pumps. Heat pumps are significantly easier to put on inverter systems. So one, they're more efficient by a significant margin, but they're also electrically much easier to deal with. So if you're fortunate enough to have a heat pump on your home, there's a high likelihood we can put a bunch of that onto the Cybertruck directly and will stay underneath that LRA. All right, so there you have it. Really appreciate the time and reviewing the options for the Tesla PowerShare Gateway as well as the Powerwall 3. Hopefully that helps give you a little bit more of an informed decision about what your options are, and we'd be delighted to support your needs. Thank you.